Armbian. Hello everybody, I am NicoD. So you could say that I am the face of Armbian, since you see me most talking about Armbian. Igor is of course the brains behind Armbian, and today we are gonna see the voice of Armbian. So here is Lanefu from the North American Armbian branch. Enjoy the video.
Alright, hi, I'm Lane, and I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and I have been a Linux person since I was a teen. I downloaded Slackware floppies from my SCO Unix account and installed it on, I think it was a 486-120 I had. It was an AMD. And I've just kind of always tried to do Linux, and that's kind of my career that evolved from being a sysadmin to where I am today. I'm a cloud and DevOps practice lead for a consulting firm. So if you ever want cloud or DevOps help, hit me up. I also, besides doing computery things, I also wrench on cars and just kind of do other just kind of hands-on things. I got an old house, so I do projects, and I do lots of them. As far as Armbian, I got to Armbian on accident. I on a whim was trying to get a Raspberry Pi Zero to try to do some sort of science project, but Amazon Prime had same-day delivery on an Orange Pi 1, and of course made the promises that it was compatible with Raspberry Pi. I quickly learned it wasn't, and I quickly found that Armbian was the only thing that works, and I made some GPIOs blink, which was kind of a pain in the all winter, especially at the time, and so I posted a how-to in all the forked libraries I made. And that was like 4 years ago, but really what got my attention was, when I first got into Linux, the excitement of Linux was just trying to make Linux work. And so just trying to make Linux work is kind of like all what like ARM Linux on SBCs is all about. And so that's kind of how I got involved. And I think that was probably, 4 years ago, if I didn't mention that already. So what I do as far as Armbian's concerned, I just started offering to help Igor some administrative duties, because, administrative being help with the forum, communication. I do a lot of the infrastructure now, and work with him on that. So as far as where we run our forum server and our app mirrors and build nodes. So I focus a lot on that. And that's primarily what I focus on today, just because my free time is getting tight. I mostly am an Armbian consumer now, more so than a developer. I love using Armbian to do compute. I'm not so much like a desktop person. The caveat is the PineBook Pro. And I do actually need a little desktop rig for my workstation when I'm not using my work laptop. So yeah, mostly administration these days. I'm obviously a native English speaker, so I do help with some of our PR communications and community engagement. Fortunately, we've got a lot of good forum mods now. Werner is a hero and does so much with the community these days, so I'm very grateful for that.
Hello, my name is Werner. Thank you.
Also worked a lot with Igor to kind of develop a more of a release process. Obviously, it's always still a work in progress, and we're always grateful for everybody's patience with that. But structure takes time, especially when everybody's busy. So I try to kind of share what I have learned from being in more of an enterprise environment and that type of software development life cycle, and try to bring some of that functionality in. Not we we use Jira now. We're far from Agilist, and we shouldn't be, but we do have to come in on Kanban workflow. I also try to follow on the code base. That's kind of the exciting part. I used to just read the source code in bed before I went to sleep, as far as Armbian build tools are concerned. I haven't gotten to do a whole lot of PR management there, but I mean that's really the most exciting thing about Armbian or most underappreciated thing is the build tool. There's just so much potential and opportunity for like the level of custom images you can do and do quickly. For 30 different platforms. Like you could, like I've got, hybrid, Nomad, Docker workers on every flavor, SPC manageable, 32-bit, 64-bit, and they all work the same. So it is a great tool for having a heterogeneous ARM compute environment. I did take the time to finally make a virtual image built, and I think you'll probably see on the forum where I've got a demo running on the Mac M1 Mac, and it works well. I've ran Armbian VMs on Ampere Emag servers. There's a lot of potential there. Our Pardini has done a ton of work on that. I really want to get his stuff merged into the code base. He's been doing cool stuff with UEFI, and even has some x86 builds. Again, I look at these small VPS providers, and I want them on ARM, and I want to help them get there, and I think this is a tool to do it. Also, I want to see more Armbian images in the cloud because even with like the official Ubuntu ARM image you get in AWS to run on Graviton, it's pre-banked with all of like AWS System Manager and a lot of these like nanny tools for the cloud that you don't necessarily need. And so again, it's really a very, very easy way to build a useful image without Packer and some of the complexity that it does, and you can have really granular control from packages to customization, and we provide little optimizations for ARM and systems, and I hope we can get more to focusing on that as we kind of grow our community. So I guess some miscellaneous achievements from when I got early involved. Oh, my hair's gonna do that. From when I got involved, the first board I added on my own, and I got ripped to shreds for it years later because I didn't know what I was doing, but I did make it work. It was the Espressobin. That was like the early implementation. A lot of others stepped up and really got it to where it's usable. Although ultimately, I think we've moved to community support, but just because of so many challenges we had, and now we've all kind of lost interest. We thought that was going to be the NAS board that everybody used, but it just wasn't quite there. And then probably the other more impactful thing I did was I took where Chewy had started on the PineBook Pro, because he did all the hard part of making a boot and all that, and then I had it kind of sat there. But I finally got I think the second production run of the PineBook Pro, and I was very excited. And so I spent a lot of time getting the core the desktop details working. The button controls, the volume, the brightness, and sound, and get the suspend kind of working, just so it's kind of a tolerable user experience. I fought a lot with finding the right firmware for making Wi-Fi and Bluetooth work acceptably, and we got to get a Peter or Peter 75. I can't remember. Both the Peters are great. Helped a lot with the bootloader because all his Arcade 3039 expertise, and then kind of our niece kind of took it from there and added a lot of different desktop environments. So I just kind of did. I'm always a middleman. I seldom a developer. So that's me and Armbian. I got involved by just being involved and just being there and offering to do things and not being afraid to just do things. And that's kind of one of the hardest things, I think, as we recruit volunteers today is, volunteers want direction. And the challenge is that we need volunteers that can manage the volunteers. We don't even have much time to do onboarding and provide direction and all that. So we need more like community leadership, and figure out how to bridge the gap between the community and then kind of like the tighter development team, so that everybody's kind of operating in their sweet spot and not getting distracted, and we can kind of grow the project. And that way we can have some good intermediates between like the forum and then the developers to escalate problems, and try to really respect kind of like that delineation between what supported is. That's always, as you all know, kind of a confusing message versus what's community supported. And hopefully we'll have some more communication about that soon. But yeah, I just want everybody to use Armbian on stuff. It's cool that it's working well on the desktop these days. RK3399 or bust, that's your only desktop choice. I don't know why anybody else tries anything else. Logic stuff's fine for full screen Cody stuff without X, but if you want a desktop, don't kid yourself, use RK3399 until like the next better rock chip is out there. I don't see Logic ever being the one. My personal favorite boards, I don't know how this came to be. I guess because Armbian was so all winter, I kind of got really on the all winter bandwagon. So I've had a pool of Orange Pi Plus 2Es. That was like the first kind of community feedback built board that Orange Pi made, just kind of working with some of the Armbian folks. And so it's still just a bulletproof, trustworthy board. It's it's got 2 gigs of RAM, it's got gigabit Ethernet, it's got just like the tried and true H3 chip, and it's got 16 gigs of really performant onboard eMCC storage. And so like that's been the control plane for my Nomad cluster, I think, for 3 years. I just shipped one to a data center in Texas to be just kind of one of my out of bound devices, because like I trust it. It's it's getting a little pokey for doing like other workloads, but again, for my control plane and for just being online and being able to throw a gigabit, it's great. I was really happy with the Orange Pi 4 as another worker, again, because it's got onboard storage. So that's another one of my Nomad worker nodes. I got lucky and got one of the models that's just like Orange Pi 4 with the storage and no neural processor. I'm just skeptical of all the NPU add-ons, because you can't use them with mainline kernel, and so it's just like, why bother until somebody steps up? I think that's changing a little bit on some of these devices, but I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, my go-to, as I was saying, right now for just cheap middle of the road use cases, actually the Pine H64 B 3 gig model. For whatever reason, I know everybody hates the H6 chip, but for a headless device, it's actually pretty great. It's pretty performant. That's my headless workstation. So I run tmux from it and do Python development and IRC, and all my like hacking kind of starts from there. And I just have a USB 3 drive for my home directory and for Docker. It's pretty good for running Docker too. Again, it's pretty performant. So they're cheap. So I kind of standardizing those as kind of just my middle of the road use case. I'm using one for a VPN gateway for WireGuard. I got 2 NICs on it, and that works well. And then I think my other kind of favorite right now is probably the Rock Pi 4s. I think I've got like the B, but yeah, just 4 gig RK3399 as some eMCC storage. It's just kind of a good hybrid for my workloads. Cadus has been really generous with sharing some of the boards with us and donating, and that's been really cool. So we kind of spent some time getting those online. They are really nice. They're too nice for me because they're they have everything, and they are really great for desktop and for media devices. I highly recommend them. Their fit and finish is amazing. The quality is really good. I'm actually going to try to use their, was it, I'm embarrassed I don't remember what it's called, but they have an RK339 board now that's really nice, and I'm actually going to try to use it as a desktop because I'm pretty optimistic for that. It's just they're too premium for worker nodes basically, because that's my passion, is like doing workloads on these things. The other board that I am currently a big fan of is the Odroid HC4. That's the the drive toaster, but it's got a PCI SATA controller with 2 drive slots. It's got 4 gigs of RAM, and it's got that newer AIM Logic chip that has the A55 cores. It's very performant, and it's a steal. We've got LCD support for it. I think we've got it merged in now. I need to follow up on that. We have some deer tickets for it, but yeah, so it's fun to like use it. Get the one with the LCD because it's got a real time clock and has the LCD. 2 critical things. Anyway, so those are my favorite boards, and I really want to see Armbian grow. I want the community to be able to work with itself now. It's really big. The ratio of devs to community is pretty extreme. It's always hard for us to manage expectations because sometimes people come from understand the Raspberry Pi ecosystem, which has a lot of support and a lot of development, to some of these other SBC platforms, which are really great, but their software support is kind of all over the place. They're kind of a ragtag, bunch of compute and hackers that are making things happen. But we focus on getting mainline kernels built and the patches for them, and so things have caught up pretty well. And so like now we can run kernel 5.10 LTS on most of our stuff, and you start to have something you can kind of trust in the field. We're going to do more for assuring updates are safe and modular, and like Armbian is a build platform. It's a build engine, and we happen to produce images for a lot of devices and produce a lot of debs available for them. But power to Armbian is to treat it less like a distribution and more like a platform for building your stuff. And then of course, if vendors want to kind of leverage our expertise and our experience and our relationship with the user base, which is Linux driven versus Android, I think we have a lot of insight there. There's still a lot of opportunity for partnerships. I think it's a project that's tough because it's hard to understand the value of what it adds and put a number on it, and then like who if a vendor was to pay full time for a developer, they probably wouldn't ship anything, So it's just kind of weird things like about how we kind of like balance those dynamics. I think forever, like we're going to be very community dependent, and so I think the subscriptions that people do on the forums is great, and I'm very grateful for that. The fundraiser model that we've done for the build server was super successful. I hope we can kind of get to more of that, and mostly I hope everybody keeps on using it, and yeah, this is fun. So thanks, NicoD, and yeah, let's chat some more. Thanks.
Here's the North American outpost for the Armbian build network. See, we do have some SPCs. That's mostly just for my own infrastructure and testing. And really the bulk of the work is this super micro server, which is dual Xeon E5 2680 V4 with 256 gigs of RAM, and then just some SSD. So it's 56 threads, and I found it more efficient with the builder to run a couple of VMs and just kind of run it overloaded. We also have a couple of devs that use VMs on here for building, and it does pretty good. And pretty soon it's going to be moving to Texas into a real data center for other purposes, but it will still serve Armbian as well. Alright, and then here's the final component of the North American outpost. This is my test rig. This is the SBC tree that I made. It's kind of a weird concept. I took some square tube and then some smaller square tube and cut and welded it and then tapped it and put threads all over the place. Just because all these boards they're different sizes, and so you just can't stack them. So I was like, stop trying to do that. So all the wiring just kind of tucks in and then out, and then here's the fun part. This is the relay control for power. So I've got power broken out, and then just to some GPUSB ports, and that's driven by a Libra computer Tritium H5. I've got some really nice shell scripts for driving this, but I don't have this fully automated. But right now, basically, I can, and they're on their own VLAN too, but I can just curl into them, or SSH into them, and then just curl an image straight to the disk, and then just kill the power and restart it. And it usually boots up the test image, so it's pretty cool. In case you're wondering, this is in my laundry room, and that's a cat box. But she's a trooper.